November 29th, 5 cards revealed today for Kobolds and Catacombs, so let's get into them. First up is Reckless Flurry, 3 mana epic warrior spell that reads, spend all of your armor, deal that much damage to all minions. This is a crazy powerful board clear. Just comboing Reckless Flurry with Shield Block or Iron Tide makes it as powerful as Dragonfire Potion. And for only 5 mana with Bring It On, it's basically Twisting Nether, unless you're playing against Jade. But I think the real advantage of Reckless Flurry is you might not have to combo with this card for it to be effective. In something like Quest Taunt Warrior, you're constantly protecting your face. Throw a couple armor up hero powers in there, and soon you'll have a really strong 3 mana board clear. But like I mentioned in the last video about Geosculptor Yip, there isn't really a competitive control warrior deck that gains a bunch of armor. Instead, there's Dead Man's Hand fatigue decks. But unlike Yip, Reckless Flurry really has a place in this deck. These Dead Man's Hand decks really only want draw to get their combo pieces and board clears to stay alive. So including Reckless Flurry is kind of a no-brainer, because the deck already uses the big armor gain cards. But you also want to be careful using Reckless Flurry because it costs you all of the armor you have, so even if you made a deck with unlimited armor using Dead Man's Hand, it still takes some time to build up more armor, so you don't want to get caught having too little health. It's much harder these days for many warrior decks to hold on to armor. It's probably going to be better to play Brawl and Sleep with the Fishes in most decks, but in a Dead Man's Hand deck and any aspiring control warriors, this is a powerful board clear. Next is Unidentified Shield. 6 mana, gain 5 armor, gains a bonus effect in your hand. So it's Warrior's Unidentified card, which changes it into one of the random options once you've drawn it. So for this card, you could either equip a 5/2 weapon, deal 5 damage, gain 10 more armor, or summon a 5/5 golem. So the card seems kind of decent. I'd value the starting 5 armor between like 1 and 2 mana, so pretty much the other 5 mana is determined randomly. It's pretty good if you get the weapon. I don't know. The card seems just too expensive. If there's a control deck that needs armor, then I guess this card is fine, but it's not a super powerful card. 6 mana 5/5 gain 5 armor is okay I guess, but it's not as powerful as a lot of other 6 mana options. You might have to take my opinion of the card with a grain of salt, because I'm not really a fan of unidentified cards, and I'll admit that this one seems like the rewards are actually pretty decently balanced, but I think the options are still too different to really be part of the same game plan. If a control deck really wants armor, maybe Unidentified Shield can help them out, but I really don't think it will see much play. Next is for Bulk Mossbinder, 5 mana 1/1 rare neutral with the battle cry, transform a friendly minion into a 6/6 elemental. Real quick, kind of off topic of this card, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the number of new high cost minions with bad stats is going to affect Evolve. There's always been a few of these bad statted high costing minions, but it seems like they're going to double the amount in the cards that they're printing for Kobolds and Catacombs. I think it's kind of cool that the minions you roll have a greater chance at being bad, but they're also giving Evolve Shaman more rolls with Unstable Evolution. I think it's a pretty decent card. It's well priced and allows you to upgrade a weak friendly minion or prevent a bad card like Bomb Squad from hurting your hero. It doesn't really synergize well with any deck besides Evolve Shaman, and if there's one thing I will say about a strong stat-based neutral minion is that it's hard for them to see play if they aren't able to synergize in a deck some way. Now if you look at a card like Bone Mare, that's just such a powerful card that it really works in any deck. And it is so good because it's basically Blessing of the Kings and a 5/5 minion wrapped into one. It's a powerful reactive card, and people are kind of annoyed of seeing it in so many different classes. Furbolg Mossbinder is not as good as Bone Mare. Its Battlecry isn't a buff that can immediately charge into a minion, instead it's just a way to retain some stats on the board. It's almost not as good as Big Time Racketeer in most cases, and this card doesn't really see play, so I don't think Mossbinder will too. Next is Deck of Wonders, 5 mana epic mage spell, shuffle 5 scrolls into your deck, when drawn cast a random spell. Why? I don't want to be a downer, and I've really liked most of the cards revealed, but this seems like it was designed to be a meme, but it completely misses the mark. I mean, Mike Doneus, Hearthstone principal designer, said, I think a lot of streamers will include this card in their deck because it's a fun card. Granted, he did mention that there will be some cards not yet revealed that are going to make this more competitive, but he also cited Spiteful Summoner as being one of those cards that works well with Deck of Wonders right now. And I like the idea of adding a lot of 5 mana spells to your deck to give Spiteful Summoner a better chance, but just the card on its own does not seem fun, memey, or logical in any way. So the card works like an ambush effect would, shuffling the cards into your deck, but instead of just spawning a 4/4, it casts a random spell from any class, and it also doesn't count towards the mage quest. So let's talk about Yogg. The community has a love-hate relationship with Yogg. They loved it, then they hated it when it was too competitive, and now that it's back from Nom after the nerf, it's mostly for memes, but it is still thrown into some control decks. The way Yogg usually works, you play your entire game, you're close to the end, and you play Yogg as a prayer to somehow swing the game in your favor. It's not a great system if everyone is playing Yogg, but if you only see it every so often, it's fine. Now let me tell you how Tortolin Primalist works, a card that everybody hates. But basically, you're playing your game, you think you might be screwed, you play Tortolini, you pick one out of the 3 spells, and it rarely helps you win. But most of all, you're just looking at that dumb turtle's face on the board thinking, why did I put you in my deck? Unless of course, the spell you picked actually killed Tortolin. It's really a low impact card, it's the worst type of discovery, and casting spells randomly isn't fun. Yogg is fun because you're basically saying fuck it, you understand if you lose the game, and you're happy if you end up winning. The patch supposedly balanced it enough that people are less likely to think they're gonna win the Yogg, so they don't play it as much. Now, having 5 cards in your deck that will randomly go off at the beginning of your turn or when you draw is not fun. Your hero will have 4 attack, a minion is just gonna be frozen on the board. You'll heal your enemy hero. It's just little bits of random target spell fluff, and then after a couple spells are randomly cast, you'll think to yourself, why am I letting a bunch of scrolls influence the gameplay? And then you remove it from your deck. Why am I so heated about this card? I don't really know. I just don't like it. But I don't think it's gonna see much play, so it's not gonna really be a competitive problem. And am I gonna make a video on the card? Hell yeah. And like the designer said, that's kind of the goal of this card, just a piece of entertainment and maybe a Reddit highlight machine like Yogg. They definitely designed this card with Yogg in mind, and maybe they thought this was a safer way of getting that same effect. But unfortunately, besides the first weeks, I don't think the community of streamers or players are really gonna like this card. Blizzard can still prove me wrong with more cards revealed. I want them to, but Deck of Wonders is a meme I cannot get behind. And you know what? If you like Tortolin, that's okay. I was caught up in the moment. It's fine. Next up is Elven Minstrel, 4 mana 3/2 rare rogue minion with combo, draw 2 minions from your deck. Drawing 2 cards is always a good thing, but specifically drawing minions is a little bit different. Because you're only drawing minions, there's often a smaller pool of cards you're choosing from. This means in Tempo Rogue, a deck where you only have around 6 or so spells, drawing 2 minions isn't really unordinary. But in a Miracle Rogue with 20 spells, drawing 2 minions gives you a much better chance at getting the minion Malagos that you're searching for. The minion drawing restrictions also can be a negative thing. If you're looking for a spell, this draw won't help you besides thinning out your deck for the next draw, and if you don't have any minions left, it doesn't do anything. It's a good card, and Tempo Rogue could use the draw, but is the 4 mana cost for 3/2 stats good enough? I think if Tempo Rogue is able to get faster, hopefully not going fully aggro, then this card could be instrumental in keeping Rogue's hand full. I think I like the idea of giving Rogue some more ways to draw cards, but we'll have to see if it ends up being a mistake. And last up is Lexlid? Fungal Lord, 5 mana 2/5 legendary elemental for druid that reads after you play minion, summon a copy of it. Big druid! Crazy combos with this card like Malagoses and summoning the Ancient One and multiple Hadronoxes, and does Faceless Manipulating Fungal Lord mean there are 3 Fungal Lords on the board? And then if you play another minion, do 4 of those minions go into the board? All of these questions and more can be answered by Big Druid. Maybe the quest reward, or the new weapon, or an Aviana Kun combo. There are a lot of ways you can make your minions cheap enough for Fungal Lord to work in crazy big minion combos. But this card is a lot like Bran in that it's a powerful, almost doubling effect. Now some battle cries are better than minions, and Bran was cheap enough that it comboed easily with multiple cards in a turn, so I'm definitely not putting this in the same level as Bran. It's just not flexible and much more of a risk. But it would be interesting if Fungal Lord could be used in Jade Druid or any other non-big druid deck, just as a strong comboing card. I don't think the cost and stats really allow this card to work like that, but I feel like it's kind of close to that. Maybe at 4 mana it would work. I just have this gut feeling that Big Druid really isn't going to work out, and so I don't really think this card will see much play besides those great combos. But you never know, maybe one of these meme combos will be good enough that it starts winning them some games. Well, that's all the cards for today. If you missed any of the other cards, I have a playlist here. Top Custom Hearthstone Cards of the Week, where we look at some fan-made cards, is also there if you want to check that out. And subscribe if you want my opinion as more cards come out. I'll be back tomorrow, and until then, ta-ta.